Hello, welcome to Bumble Stitches, episode 27. My name's Nicola and I'm really happy to be with you today. It's Sunday the 8th of July and I'm coming to you from Suffolk in the UK where I live, and it is a very hot sunny day again, and I for one am a little bit over the heat now. So if I look a little bit glowy in this episode, please forgive me. It is such a warm day, especially upstairs in the house. You can find me here on YouTube. You can also find me on Instagram as Bumble Stitches, and you can find me on Etsy as Bumble Stitches Store. The podcast has a Ravelry group, which is the Bumble Stitches group. You can find on the groups tab, and that's where the knit-alongs and giveaways and things like that are taking place. So please pop over and join there too if you would like. So it's really good to be back. I did intend to podcast last week, but it was a bit of a hectic week, and again it was really hot, so I just couldn't muster up the strength to get everything set up and organise myself, so I didn't. But I really wanted to come and do one today so that I can announce obviously our giveaway winners and just catch up, because there are a couple of things that I'd like to share with you. So as I said, it has been a busy old week and a warm one. Now I know that the weather we've had here in the UK is nothing compared to some parts of the world that you may be viewing this podcast from, but we are so not used to it. And me for one, and also Justin, my partner, we are not hot weather people and not sunshine people at all. In fact, I go as far as to say if you took out the some of the nastier aspects of it, would probably qualify as vampires, because we really don't like the sunshine. We tend to sort of stay inside, seek the shade, and just try to stay as cool as possible. And obviously knitting isn't always the best thing. Not so bad if you're knitting small items, socks and bits and pieces like that, but yeah, big knitted items can be a little bit too much in this heat. So I'm sorry if you're someone that really loves it here at home, but if the weather could give us a little bit of a break, that would be nice. And it would be nice to see a little splash of rain, because everything's just looking very brown and dusty and dry and a little bit tired, to be honest. It'd be nice to have a little bit of green back again. So earlier this week I went down to the southwest of the country, to Bristol and North Devon and sort of Somerset, that area, on business. And I was very lucky to manage to find some time to meet up with two lovely knitty friends, the girls from the Bird Box podcast. That's Claire and Becky. They live in the Bristol area, and we met up and had a really lovely evening down in Bristol, sat by the harbour side and had some lovely fish and chips and a little walk along, and maybe a little drinky was involved as we sat there in the evening sun, which was really lovely. Just about the sort of weather that I can bear at that time of the evening, but that was really lovely. So thank you, girls. I really enjoyed that. It was lovely to see you. And if any of you are not familiar with the Bird Box podcast, do check it out on YouTube. The podcast's been going for a few months now, so there's quite a few episodes that you can catch up on. They're great fun. The girls share lots of knitting projects, and Claire's husband, Mr. B, is the dyer behind Mr. B's yarns, so he shares all his wonderful dye creations and their beautiful yarns. So do check them out if you fancy a new podcast to watch. Okay, I'm going to get on and actually show you some things that I've done. I'm going to have a little sip of drink first, as is customary. Today I've rustled up an iced coffee because, yeah, heat. So it's just a little sort of homemade effort. And I've got some almond milk in here, which I quite like. So wet my whistle. Okay, so finished objects. I have completed my first brioche project ever, which I am really, I know pride comes before a fall, but I am very proud of myself. This is my Marley shawl. I'm going to try and get it all in the shot if I can. If you can see it there, it's all blocked and complete. I can't actually see what I'm showing you, so hopefully you can see everything there. triangular shawl. I'll pop back again, or I'll show you the reverse side as well. So it's 2-colour brioche. It is the Marley by Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits, and I really enjoyed knitting this so much. If you've been watching the podcast previously, you will know that I had a lot of knitter's anxiety about not being able to tackle brioche. So I took a class at my local yarn shop and decided this will be my first actual project other than the swatch that I did in class. So as a complete brioche beginner, I couldn't have chosen a better pattern. I think this is absolutely brilliant for anyone wanting to take that first step in brioche. The pattern itself is so well written. All the instructions and abbreviations are completely straightforward and easy to understand. There's no second guessing what Andrea Mowry is asking you to do. It's all very obvious and very clearly written out. So I would highly recommend this pattern for you if you are considering taking that first step. And it really is not difficult. I know lots of people tell you that, and if you are the one struggling, you just think, yeah, it's easy for you, but seriously, it is straightforward. Once you get going, if you can do yarn overs and you can knit and you can purl, you can do brioche. It's really is as straightforward as that. Just to let you know about the yarns I use. Sorry, my chair is a little bit backwards and forwards. I've done it in 2-colour, so you can see the grey there, the light grey, which is the right side, if you like. And on the reverse, I'd made up a magic cake of minis, sort of rainbow minis that I had in stash for ages and ages. And because this was going to be my sort of trial brioche project, I thought I'd just use them up. They were languishing in stash. I didn't have a clue what I was going to use them for, so I thought I'd pop them in this. Now, if I'd have realised how nicely it was going to turn out, I probably would have used something different for the B side. But yeah, it's growing on me. It wouldn't normally be my first sort of colour choice for an accessory, but it is growing on me. And the colour changes quite a lot down from the very strong sort of rainbow colours and the purples, and as it gets to the bottom, you can see it sort of starts going, there's a few pops of neon and a lighter grey, and then it goes into more sort of sky blue with rainbow colours in as well. So the grey that I used, the pale grey, is this one here. Now the pattern calls for 2 skeins of each colour, and I literally dipped into the second skein of the grey, and the magic cake, well, I have no idea because just lots and lots of minis joined together, so I don't exactly know if that was more than 100 grams of yarn. So you don't need a full 2 skeins of each colour is what I'm getting at, really. So plenty of that left over. This is from West Green Loft Yarns. I think this is her old tags here. I think she's got new ones now. And this was the Shadow Facts colourway. And what Andrea Mowry has you do is, for the border of the shawl, you knit the 2 strands together that you've been doing the 2-colour brioche in. So you knit the garter stitch border double, so you get the sort of mould effect of the 2 colourways, which I think works really nicely. And she gives you instructions for a nice stretchy bind off too. So that's all blocked and finished. I knitted it on 3.5mm needles for the main part of the body of the shawl, and the border was knit on 3.75mm needles. So I'm really pleased that this is done. I'm not even going to attempt to put it around my neck because I think I'll probably just pass out from the heat. But needless to say, as all brioche is, it's squishy and it's warm, and it's got a nice drape to it, and really pleased with it. So that's my finished object for you. Just a little side note on the the cake of the magic cake that I did with the knots of the mini skeins, I'm not convinced that that's going to last forever. I know forever's a long time, but obviously I did the magic knots. You can see one just there. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. Just there is a little magic knot. Forgive my nails, they're a little bit tired, my nail polish, so it looks a little bit scruffy. Yeah, and a couple of places the knots look to me like overwear, and I mean this has obviously been soaked and blocked, and I'm just concerned that at some point those knots might come undone. I did do it according to sort of tutorials for the magic knot on YouTube, and it felt really secure. I was giving it a good tug and it did feel quite secure, but I just think over time I don't know if I would trust it. I certainly wouldn't use that method if I was knitting a garment, sort of a sweater or a cardi or something like that. So anyway, I'm going to put this down now because I should just be rambling on about it for all eternity. But that is the Marley shawl by Andrea Mowry. Right, let's pop that down. My next finished object is not completely finished. Well, it's kind of, well, let's show you. So this is a sock finished object, just the one sock so far. It's not been blocked or anything. These are the Sugar Frost socks. I shared them on the last podcast by, what is it, Vanilla Wool. Sugar Frost socks, pattern on Ravelry. I think it's a free one. I did mention it on the last episode, and this is the one that won the little help me pick my next whip post that I put on Instagram. That was great fun. So yeah, I've completed sock number 1, and this is knitted in yarn from the Little Tailoress, Amy's yarn label, which is now, her yarn label is now Dandelion and Dogwood. This was part of a sock club that ran for 3 months, which was based on the film The Waitress, and this was a meringue, not meringue, keep saying meringue, marshmallow pie was the colourway. So the yarn was, just find it for you, so that was the main skein, really pretty, and there was a contrasting mini which I used for the heels and toes, and I did just put a little stripe just under the ribbing there. I did a 1x1 twisted rib. Yeah, that was what the pattern called for. I think it works really, really well, and it's got a heel flap and gusset, which I like, rounded toe. So really, really pleased with that. And I cracked on to get the second sock done, and all was going well. Now this is finished, but I still have to sew in the ends, as you can see. So it is finished, but I'm not calling this a completely finished object because obviously they're not blocked, the ends aren't sewn in. But I finished this off last night. Justin was watching Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner, and it's a long film, and I kind of lost interest about halfway through. We had seen it before. Anyway, I digress. So I thought I'd just pop the toe in and then sew the ends in, and I could have these blocked and ready to show you like today on the podcast. But I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm knitting away on the toe, and you can probably see if I compare the two. Apart from the fact they look completely different colours, I think that's just the light. Yeah, I did the decreases on the toe, but instead of doing the, you know, knit 2 together, knit 1 and then knit 1 SSK and so on, I just did the decreases and no extra knits. So I've got a much more pronounced sort of decrease welt down the side of the socks, and oh, I don't know. So yeah, a little bit of a fail on the toe. The thought did cross my mind to just rip the toe out and do it again, but I think they'll be fine. I think once they're both blocked, and yeah, I think they'll be okay. I know it will probably bug me at a later date, but right now I just can't. So yeah, once they're end sewn in and blocked, I shall call these done and move on to the next one. So yeah, so it's a very, very nearly finished object there. That of course means you can cast on another pair of socks, which is exactly what I did. Let me just show you what I've got. I'm just going to move these out of the way before we get to a meltdown point of whips. I had shown you these on the last podcast. These are the Let It Shine socks by Sarah Yowd. This is a free pattern on Ravelry, a really lovely pattern. Sorry, I'm saying a lot, aren't I? I blame it on the heat today. I haven't made a lot of progress since last time I showed you these, but it's a really lovely pattern with just a simple lace detail that goes up each leg. And they are right and left footed, so the lace pattern is at the outside of your leg. And the yarn I'm using for these is this beautiful yarn from Polly of Paper Stories UK, and this is the Pankhurst colourway, obviously the colours of the women's sort of suffrage movement. So really enjoying the yarn, enjoying the socks, but just haven't made an awful lot of progress on them. But the Let It Shine socks, Sarah says in the description, is just a simple, you know, mostly vanilla pattern with a little bit of interest, just so that special cake of yarn can, you know, really see it rather than be hidden amongst a heavily textured pattern. So those will be getting a lot of love now that the Sugar Frost socks are complete. But I thought I'd best desperately cast on a new pair of socks, because otherwise I only have one pair of socks on the needles, and that would be, you know, just not enough. So I went to one of my other project bags, which is this one, the Party Bird from So Sweet Violet from Jules, because this was another one that I had already with some caked up yarn in. And in this bag was some beautiful yarn, which I'm going to show you now, which is this skein of yarn from Vicky of West Green Loft Yarns, and I've forgotten the colourway. It is called Lovebird, and this is the yarn that came with the knitting nest that's just sitting down there on the bed where I'm sort of dumping stuff. This is the skein of yarn that came with that when I bought it as a kit, so it's really pretty. It's got a lot of soft cream and then all the beautiful colours that are in the Tilda fabrics of the bag that Jules has sewn, of the nest rather, not the bag. So I was itching to use that, and I found a mini in my stash which I thought would go rather nicely, because there's some nice aqua shades, and this is a little speckledy. This was left over from my So Faded sweater that I knitted last year, and this is a Mr. B's, and I can't remember the colourway, but it's a lovely yarn. I thought it would be great for the contrasting heels and toes. So the pattern that I'm doing for these is the Atlantic Current socks, and they just feature a simple slip stitch along the length of the leg and down the foot. And I thought that would be nice because, again, this is such beautiful yarn. I wanted it to have its opportunity to be seen rather than hidden in a complex texture or pattern. But the pattern calls for you to knit a cuff of 3x1 rib. Now don't laugh, this is the tiniest amount of knitting to ever be shown on a podcast, I'm sure. I don't know if you can see, so I did a long tail cast on as usual and cast it on, and it's doing this very odd, if I show you, it's sort of like in, I don't know if you can see the way it's just sort of like kinking up, almost like a scalloped edge. I'm not really loving that. I don't know if it will block out. I don't know if my cast on was a little bit loose. It was only the same way I would normally do it, but I'm not really convinced that that 3x1 rib is going to make me very happy. So for how little I've done, I think I'd probably just pull that out, do a 1x1 twisted rib, which is my much preferred looking. I don't like knitting the twisted rib, but I really like how it looks. So I think I will probably just pop that off and start again with a 1x1 twisted rib. So that's another little whippet that is going on at the moment. Okay, I've sort of like raced ahead of myself here. I've got some notes, 2 pages of notes actually, because I'm a bit scatterbrained today. And I am going to talk to you. I have got another whip that I want to talk to you about in a second. But before that, I think the heat really has got to me today. Now let me show you the next whip and then I can go on from there. So in the last episode, again, I mentioned that I was waiting on some yarn to knit the Deshane sweater, which is a Quince & Co pattern, and I hadn't had the pattern printed out at that point. This has got a little bit wet at some point, water damage, so just ignore that. So you can see it's a really lovely cropped sweater with a lace pattern at the front and the drop shoulder and just a small sort of sleeve there. There's this detailing at the front that I really, really liked. I didn't really want, because it's a summer sweater, it's knitted in the, I think, Quince & Co's Kestrel yarn, and it's quite expensive and not that readily available without buying it online or getting it from Loop or whatever. So I thought I had a look on Ravelry, and lots of people had knitted it in one of the drops yarns, which is Belle, which I sort of shall show you, which is this here. And this is what's the blend? It's 53% cotton, 33% viscose and 14% linen. Now it is a slightly lighter weight of yarn than the Quince Kestrel. So fortunately, lots of lovely people on Ravelry on their project pages have made notes about their gauge and their needle sizes and so on. So I made full use of that, which is one of the things that you just got to love Ravelry for, because there were so many helpful notes. And I was a very good knitter and knitted a swatch and blocked it. So I know the camera's not going to like this, but it knitted up well, and the gauge that I got told me that I needed to go up to the largest size that the pattern has to get the size that I was originally going to knit. So I will show you where I'm at. So I've knitted most of the front. I'm going to add a couple of extra pattern repeats though, because that is a very short cropped sweater. Now I don't know how this is going to be just a nightmare. If I hold it like that, you might be able to see that there's a bit of patterning going on in the front. It's blowing everything out. It's absolutely gone crazy, hasn't it? I don't think it's going to get any better if I try and show it to you close up, but you might just be able to say, oh, isn't it awful trying to do this? Kudos to people that make films for a living and get all the lighting and everything right, because it's not easy. It's difficult. I'm going to give up trying to hold that up because it's a little bit... So that will form the front, and it's just sort of like straight across the neck, and it forms a drop sleeve. Yeah, it looks a bit of a hot mess on here, doesn't it, really? But I'm hoping it will actually look, in real life, it does. It's knitting up really, really nicely, and I hope it's going to be a nice garment once it's finished. So that's the Deshane sweater by Quince & Co. And it's all living in my my black take-along tote, which is perfect for sweater projects. I've got all the yarn for that in here, and it just all sits in nicely. So those are the whips that are being worked on. I have created a new category in my notes, which is whips of shame, and those are currently in the whips of shame category. We have my Tenya sweater, my door sweater, and my girl's best friend shawl, which have had zero love in about a month, which is a bit shameful, hence them being in the whips of shame category. And I really do need to get to grips with some of those, at least give them a bit of love. Often, you know what it's like, you put something down, you lose interest, you start something new, but once you pick it up again, it doesn't take long to fall in love again. So I'm hoping to get something, possibly the Tenya, done, because being a short sleeve sweater, that would be ideal for the weather that we're having at the moment. So watch this space. Hopefully next podcast I can remove them from that category. Okay, I'm trying to think what I need to cover next. Let's have a little talk about our ongoing knit along in the Ravelry group, and that is the old and new cow. And that's been going along really nicely. Everyone's been knitting away with old stash and new patterns, so hence the old and new. And if you are new to the podcast or the Ravelry group and you want to play along, the knit along is running all through this year. So I've just, rather late in the day, but I have closed off the June finished objects thread, and I will be opening up a July one, so you can start popping your projects in there. And each month we have a winner of a prize. So I have a winner to announce for the June entries. Now, this month's prize has been donated by a lovely podcast viewer and Ravelry group member, that is Kelly June, and she has donated a pattern of your choice from Ravelry up to the value of $10 US, which will cover thousands of patterns, I'm sure. It's a very, very generous gift. So if there's that special pattern that the lucky winner has in their wish list, in their favourites in Ravelry, this will be the time to get that purchased and cast on. So I'm going to tell you who the winner is. I'm just going to check on my iPad because I did do the draw before the podcast and I did a screenshot of the lucky winner. There were 12 entries for June, and I put in the random generator from 2 to 12, and the winner is number 5, as you can see there. And the post number 5 is UK knitter Sam. Congratulations, Sam. And she did this Greco top, this beautiful striped summer top, and Sam says she finally finished the Greco top, bought the yarn a couple of years ago, and she's finally finished it, and it looks fabulous. So congratulations, Sam. If you get in touch with me, well, you don't really need to get in touch with me if you fancy, but if not, I will pass your Ravelry username on to Kelly June, and she will kindly sort out your pattern. I think it's a pattern gift card that she's arranging. So congratulations to Sam, and huge thanks to Kelly June for supporting the podcast. It's very much appreciated. You're very kind. Thank you. Okay, so 2 other things. I am just going to check on my notes because, while I'm talking about our old and new cow, as I mentioned, I'm going to open up July's thread for you. Another lovely podcast viewer and supporter is Simone, and she is also known as Whitecliff Knits, is her Ravelry username. And she got in touch with me. She won a giveaway on the podcast a little while ago, and she got in touch with me and said that she would really like to give something back to the podcast, which I said was really kind of her and was very welcome. So she sent me some lovely goodies for a prize, which I'm going to show you now. Now, Simone comes from the south coast of England in Kent. Obviously if you're in the UK, you would guess that from her username of Whitecliff Knits. But if you're not from the UK, there's the White Cliffs of Dover, which are famous landmark, and in that area is Dover and Folkestone and towns like that. So she sent in this beautiful set of minis, which I'm trying not to crinkle too much, and I'm also trying not to get glare from the packaging because I didn't want to take them out. And these are from Folkestone Harbour Yarn, and I think they look absolutely gorgeous. It's a gradient mini set, and these are in the Votes for Women colourway. So very similar to the yarn that I'm knitting my Let It Shine socks on, that Polly of Paper Stories dyed. So this is a little sort of gradient mini set in the same theme. These are absolutely gorgeous. So these will be a prize, part of the prize for the July Old and New Cow. And Simone does a lot of travelling in her work, and she said she picked up this really cute bookmark in Malaysia. that she thought would be really nice. She popped that in with the mini skeins for us. And also this really cute enamel pin, which is a cat donut hybrid, which is super cute and fun, which will go on your project bag. So I don't know if you can see that. That's really nice. She did write me a lovely note, and she did tell me who the Etsy seller was for this pin, but it's my fault that I can't actually read. It's something disco, but I can't actually read it. I'm really sorry, so that's a bit of a fail on my part. But that will be our prize for the July Old and New Cal, the little pins in there. So do get your entries in, and this could be winging its way to you. But thank you, Simone, for supporting the podcast. Thank you to Kelly June. And if there's anybody out there that would like to donate a prize for any of our knit-alongs and giveaways, then please do get in touch. It is much appreciated. I do try to provide the nicest prizes I can, and often I just sort of buy skeins of yarn myself, so any help is much appreciated, and these are fabulous. Thank you, Simone. Okay, so when I had the last episode out, I did mention that if anybody was interested, it might be quite fun to do a newbie brioche along, or like a brioche bootcamp knit along, and lots of people said they would be interested in doing that. So I've been having a little think, and I think it's something that I would like to do. So if you are interested, I will be starting a brioche along. I might think of a different name for it by the time it launches, but I'm going to be starting a brioche along for our podcast and our Ravelry group on the 1st of August. So I'm going to gather some information together with some patterns that I think are particularly suitable, like the Marley shawl, for example, and there are a couple of others by different designers that you might be interested in as well, and try and gather some resources together, some good tutorials and things like that, to try and make it easy, an easier transition for you to get into brioche, and to try and virtually hold your hand a little bit if I can. I mean, I'm not, you saw I've only done one thing, but I just feel it is much easier than we all think it is. So if you just have someone to just give you a little bit of encouragement, then you could be brioching too. So if you look out for that, I will mention it on the next podcast. I'll launch the knit along on the 1st of August, and you are more than welcome to join in the Ravelry group, and hopefully I'll get some prizes organised for that as well. So just bear that in mind for an upcoming knit along. Talking of knit-alongs, make-alongs and things like that, I'm going to pop my Marley shawl into the rainbow along that's being run by Jules and Amy of So Sweet Violet and the Little Tailoress podcasts. So yeah, who knows, I might even be lucky in that, because I'm sure they're going to have some scrummy prizes up for grabs. So if you're not involved with that one, do take a look at that as well. Okay, I think you might all be here because I have had a 500 subscriber giveaway running. I was absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of people that left comments on the last episode on YouTube to enter the giveaway, and also the content of those comments. It was absolutely wonderful, the feedback that you gave me. The comments were just really touching and lovely, and I think you're all wonderful people, and the fact that you've, well, I'm really overwhelmed, and you've just so very kind, and thank you all very much, everyone that took the time to enter into the giveaway and left such lovely comments and have been subscribing and supporting me. I think you're wonderful, so thank you all very much. There can only be one winner. I'll just show you the prize again. So this is the take along tote that I made, much like my one that I showed you earlier with my Deshane sweater in. This one I have made specially for the giveaway. It's made from Cath Kidston fabric on the outside. and it's got a pink polka dot lining and a pocket with my little Bumble Stitches logo on. And inside here there are 2 skeins of Fibre Spates Scrumptious Sport Weight yarn in baby pink, which is beautiful. It is a 45% silk, 55% superwash merino base, and it's got a lovely sheen on it. So there are 2 skeins of that. That one's a bit floppy, don't know why. And I have also popped in, she's back in her little bag now, but the little Sybil the Sheep pin, which is from Caroline Loves to Sew. I just thought the colours went so beautifully with the bag and the yarn. It was a shame not to pop Sybil in with the prize as well. So I'm going to draw a winner now. Well, I already know who the winner is because I did the drawing before I started. I'm just going to pop your prize over here. Before I started the podcast, I went on to a YouTube comment random generator widget thing and chose a winner, and I've done a screenshot of it. So it's exciting, isn't it? So let me just pull that up on my screen and show you. And basically that widget just goes into, you copy the link from the video that's got all the comments in, it takes out any duplicate comments, and it then just randomly selects a winner. It's really clever because I was wondering how I was going to do that actually. Okay, so I wish I had a drum roll, wouldn't it be exciting? So this is the YouTube random comment generator screen, and I don't know if you can see this, the winner is Amy Ririnui. Is it Ririnui, Amy? If it isn't, I'm so sorry. I'm really rubbish at pronouncing names. But our lucky winner is Amy Ririnui. And Amy said in her comment, congratulations, Nicola, on reaching a huge milestone. 500 subscribers is an amazing accomplishment, and I'm so glad to have been with you on your journey from your first episode. That's amazing, Amy. If you've been with me from episode 1, you deserve a medal, let alone a bag and some yarn. But congratulations to you. That is fantastic. I'm so pleased, and so pleased to be able to announce the winner today. So Amy, if you can get in touch with me on, hopefully you follow me on Instagram, or you can contact me on Ravelry. Drop me a direct message on either of those platforms with your details, and I can get your prizes sent out to you. If you're not on either of those platforms, I don't know what the easiest way to do it will be. Just leave another comment under, leave a comment under this video on YouTube, and I'll try and contact you in some way that way. Yeah, but hopefully you can contact me on Instagram or Ravelry and let me know your details, and I can send your prize to you. So I'm really excited. Thank you to everyone though for taking part, and a huge thank you to you all for being there with me with my little hot face and all my ramblings and ermines and everything today. It's appreciated more than you know, so thank you. Okay, I am going to move on to my acquisitions now, which aren't too many. I have been quite well behaved. I even went to Brighton for a few days with my mum and didn't go to Yak, which is the beautiful yarn shop in Brighton. So lots of self-restraint went on there. But I have had a few new acquisitions arrive. I'll just grab them and then I can share them with you. The first thing I would like to share with you, I mentioned earlier that I went to Bristol on business and met up with the lovely ladies from Bird Box podcast with Claire and Becky, and mentioned that obviously Claire is Mrs. B of Mr. B. So she said to me, you can't come to Bristol and not have a skein of their Bristol yarn, which is named Girt Lush. And I have no idea. I'm not even going to attempt to do a Bristol accent because that would just end in tears for you and for me. But it's apparently a sort of a Bristol saying, but one of those sayings that's been, you know, kind of nobody in real life actually says it, but it's famous as a Bristolian saying. So this is my beautiful skein of Gert Lush, and you can see it's beautiful. It's got a creamy natural base with lots of greens and burgundies and pinks, a little bit of teal in there as well. Absolutely gorgeous, and that's on their Hiddleston base, which is 75/25 superwash merino and nylon. So I see a lovely pair of socks in my future with my Gert Lush colourway. So thank you, Claire and Mr. B, and thank you, Becky. That was such a lovely surprise and so generous, and just made what was already a lovely evening just perfect. So thank you. The next acquisition I have got is some yarn from Beehive Yarns, and if you've been following, if you're an Instagram follower, you will be familiar with the Tits Out Collective, which is a charity that's been set up to... There's a long story behind it. It's all to do with Countess Ablaze being approached by somebody to get involved with some business. It's a long story. You probably all know the story anyway, but somebody then took on her. She did some yarn to raise money for women's charities, and then somebody copied her yarn and was selling it, but without donating any money to charity. So in answer to that, rather than just it being a negative, she turned that negative into a positive and got lots of indie dyers involved. I think about 100 and odd people got involved, and said, let's all make our own versions of this yarn and all send a donation to charities of your choice. So this is the... I've probably made that really rambly, but you guys know all this stuff anyway. So this is the Beehive Yarns edition. So it's the If I Want Exposure I'll Get My Tits Out is the group name for the yarn, and this is Beehive's Bee Stings edition on the Audrey base, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And it comes with a little tiny bee progress keeper, and it's stunning, absolutely gorgeous. Really vivid violets, neon, pops of neon pink, pops of neon orange and yellow, a cream base, absolutely gorgeous. Plus the feel-good factor of knowing that, yeah, I've treated myself to some yarn, but there's been a donation made to charity, so which is always nice to know. It makes me feel a bit better. So that is something that arrived this week. And then something arrived that I'd completely forgotten about. Now, I am a sucker for being enabled by Instagram, being enabled by watching people's podcasts and seeing what they've bought. And I was watching the Grocery Girls, not this episode, the episode before, and they were talking about their collaboration with Nicole from Hugh Loco for the Knit Two Together Sock Club. And they mentioned that July was going to be particularly gorgeous, and those naughty girls got me to the point where I had to have it. So I paused the podcast, went straight over to Nicole's shop, the Hugh Loco shop, and put myself down on the pre-order for the July kit, which is popsicles and ponytails. And isn't it beautiful? So there's the main skein here, which has got this gorgeous sort of Tiffany blue running through, and lots of beiges and tan and caramel shades too, and some nice mustard yellow. And then the mini has got all these shades of coral and almost like a rose colour, dark brown. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I'm so pleased that I got it, and I had forgotten it was coming, and then it just plopped through the letterbox, which was such a lovely treat, especially after the couple of days I'd had when I got home and this was there waiting for me. And not only was there this lovely sock set, it came with the coolest little needle gauge ever, which is a laser cut wooden needle gauge and a little tiny gauge, sort of, I guess, for measuring your swatches. and it's done like the Grocery Girls little grocery cart full of skeins of yarn. So how cute is that? It's just really lovely. So that was the July Knit Two Together Sock Club kit that I got from Grocery Girls and Hugh Loco. So really pleased with that. There is going to be an August, September and October. I know this because they're all written on the back of the band. So if you're interested, I know that once they won't be repeating, each month has a completely different extra with it, so they won't be repeating this again, but there will be something equally gorgeous and unique for the upcoming month. So pop over to Hugh Loco if that's something that you're interested in. I think, is that all my acquisitions? The only thing that did pop up, turn up, sorry, was I shared this last time, which was the little Rose Garden mobile phone cover from the Wool Sanctuary, and I was waiting on the yarn for this, and it did turn up, so I will share it with you. And I got this from the Wool Warehouse, where I got my drop spell for the Deshane sweater. So I got these colourways. I'm only going to need a little, apart from the cream, which is the base, I'm only going to need a little. It's the very dark forest green, and I'm not going to be able to hold them all, am I? And the blush pink as well, just to do the Intarsia colour work on that little Rose Garden project. And I've got these little pearl beads because the back of it is beaded. You sort of knit the beads in on the plain stockinette back of the project. So I've got some pinky ones and some pearl ones that I just picked up in Hobbycraft. So I'm really looking forward to working on that as well. Other than that, I think I may be done. I've tried to do some work on some sewing. I did pop on Instagram a picture that I was going to make some make a linen top from the Emmeline Tea pattern that I got from Little Tailoress Etsy shop. I was going to do this version 1 here with the grown on sleeve in plain white linen, and I managed to get the pattern all traced off, and that's about as far as I got. And I was going to sew it up yesterday, but it was so hot, the thought of getting the iron out and ironing all the fabric and pressing and being all steamy, I thought it would literally be like a sweatshop, so that wasn't such a good idea. So that's going to be something that I work on soon. And I've got sort of like a sewing whip. I'm in the middle of making a little rainbow project bag, and it's going to have some little lavender sort of violet gingham lining. So that's a little sewing whip. But as I said, it's been so warm, and particularly warm in this room, that yeah, sewing hasn't really appealed. The you know, the mind is willing, but the body's saying no, for God's sake, woman, just sit in the cool and knit socks and small things. So that's what I've been doing. So I think I've probably covered everything. I will hopefully be back to you soon. I will open up the July thread for the Old and New Cow. I'm hopefully going to get to Fibre East, which is a yarn festival in Bedford at the end of July. So I'm hopefully going to get there on either the Saturday or the Sunday. I'll let you know nearer the time what day I'm going, so that if anyone wants to say hi, yeah, that'd be lovely to see any of you that are going. And that's about it for today. So congratulations to our winners. Thank you to our donators of lovely prizes, and thank you most of all to all of you, because without you I'd be talking to myself. So have fun, stay cool, keep knitting. Bye.